Window World is proud to present Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. Simply the best for less at windowskansascity.com.
It seemed like the whole country had a fun time on Thursday making fun of President Biden for falling at the Air Force Academy while speaking at a commencement speech where he basically face-planted on stage as he was exiting after a not very good speech, which is not unusual for him. And while the internet, social media, and people everywhere thought it was great to just make fun of this, laugh at this, or make some sort of a statement about how sad this is and Joe Biden needs to leave office, there are two really important points here that fall under a couple of different categories, right? First is we want him to run. We don't want him out. The reaction from a lot of people is, he's got to go, Joe Biden's not worthy. We want him to run for president. I don't know what's going to happen on the Republican side. I don't know if Trump has so many negatives that he can't beat Biden. I don't know if they cheated last time. Nobody knows any of this. What we know is you ought to be able to beat Joe Biden. That anybody they trot out there should certainly have a better chance of winning than Joe Biden. You would think the numbers of people that will stay home that are Democrats or leftists or whatever and say, I just can't vote for this guy, or I'm not motivated, or I don't care, you would think that would be an extraordinarily large number. We want him to run. We don't want, from all these gaffes, all these mistakes and everything, we don't want him to pull out of this thing. I think that is bad for what we're trying to accomplish. The second thing that's important is just the sheer embarrassment. And I would ask this question. If you saw this of Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping or some other leader, Kim Jong-un, one of these guys, on something as simple as walking across a stage and tripping and falling like that, what would we be thinking about that country? The competence, the strength of that country. We'd be thinking, what a buffoon, what a bunch of idiot people, what a sad situation that that's their leader, all of these things. This is an incredible metaphor and sign of weakness for the United States in these troubled times that we have. We have done nothing but get weaker under the Biden administration. On almost every single front, we've gotten weaker. The only thing that we've gotten stronger at is promoting abnormal behavior. And I know that's absolutely a word to get you in trouble. You're not supposed to be able to say that. There is the majority of people, there is a normal, there's a society in this country. There's a way that we live. There's a way that we have always lived since the founding of our country. And this has no regard, okay, for gender, age, race, religion, any of that stuff. None. There's a way we live. We have a culture. We have something normal about us, the way we live. We see other cultures, for example, you can find places in or near India where they're not very developed. They don't have electricity. They still go to the bathroom outside and into a hole. And we would look at that and think that's abnormal. But for them, that's normal. Every culture has a normal behavior. What's happening here is, under the Biden administration, is everything that we have deemed important, and again, the word normal isn't perfect, but it's a great word to use here, that we have deemed important, normal, our way of going about life to be exceptional as Americans and have the greatest country on earth is just being destroyed. Some of these through things like an open border, but certainly most of these are just cultural. They're just us shooting ourselves in the foot. And Joe Biden falling is just another example of that. It is a metaphor for what the world thinks of us. They look at us as this great, unbelievable power that has been the greatest country on earth for maybe 150 years. I don't know. We certainly in the beginning weren't the strongest, most powerful, and greatest country on earth, but we've had a hell of a run. And the rest of the world is looking at us going, what an embarrassment that they're doing this to themselves, that they're just imploding. And this was a perfect visual of that. And it's very, very serious. I think what bothers me the most is if I'm one of these other people in another country, and I'm thinking about the people that are flat out running the United States, the Biden administration, there's one of two things going on here. Either this is a complete setup and they want him to trip and fall because they want him out, But I don't think that's true, and I'll explain why in a moment, because they want another candidate to come along. Who's a better candidate? If that's what everybody wanted, then I would think they would just, the powers that be, get to Biden and say, look, you're not running. So I don't think that's it. We learned when he fell that this man wears special shoes, that they're dress shoes, but on the bottom, they're converted Nikes, for lack of a better term. They're rubber soles, rubber gripping, special gripping, not like one flat rubber sole on the bottom. These look like track shoes. They're specially built for the president to not trip. That's what these shoes are for. I don't know if you've seen the pictures or not online in the media. These are custom shoes that this man wears, and there's no question they're to help him go up and down stairs, to walk on and off stages without falling. We've seen him get caught in a bicycle pedal. We've seen him trip going upstairs on Air Force One, and now we see him tripping over. Apparently, they've decided that a sandbag was on the stage, and this is the problem. Karine Jean-Pierre immediately said after the event that, listen, it was very windy out there, and she was blaming the wind on this, which was a joke, an absolute joke. She didn't know what else to say. This is incompetence to the nth degree. Then they say, well, they went back and looked, and there was a sandbag on the stage because it was windy, and the sandbag apparently was holding something down, so it didn't blow it away. These are all explainable things, but they can't be explained with this president. This is the man that they provide note cards for, they give directions to, and he still doesn't know where to exit and enter the stage. They give him special shoes. They do everything for him, but at some point he has to stand out there alone as the president of the United States. And they're not even any good at this. I put on Twitter yesterday, and I think this is an important point. If Joe Biden is the president and he has handlers, and they're allowing a sandbag on the stage near where he's speaking and exiting, walking out, entering and exiting, if they're doing that, that's the equivalent of having a president of the United States that lives or is in a wheelchair and forgetting to ask, is there a ramp up to the stage? And then they have to take him up the stairs to get the wheelchair up on the stage. I mean, it's literally as stupid as that. They go to the trouble of making this man special shoes so he doesn't trip, and then somebody just flat forgets to say, is this stage clear? What's with this sandbag? Nobody from the administration walked out there before the event and looked around and said, hey, this is potentially dangerous. This sandbag could trip him up. They're not doing that. It leads me to ask the question, if they want him to fall, if they want Gavin Newsom to run, if they need a real excuse or a real reason. And it comes back to my main point, and that is we want Joe Biden to run. There is this bloodthirst in D.C. in the swamp, and it exists on the right as well, in the right-leaning media. And everything I'm reading everywhere is people are just demanding that Joe Biden be out. And there is a thought that if somebody gets removed from office, there's no way that party can win an election. I ain't buying it. I want Biden on the ticket. I want to run against Joe Biden. I can't see anything better than running against Joe Biden. The devastating political ads that you could run the last 3 or 4 weeks alone should do the job. They should never be about Trump or DeSantis or whomever it is. Every single ad should be a negative ad about Joe Biden. In the closing 3 months of the campaign, it should be him stumbling and falling, stammering, stuttering. I don't care. I'm sorry. The gloves are off. You shouldn't. If we want to sit here and say, well, he had a stuttering problem as a young person, I don't care. You don't look, sound, act, or run like a president. You don't. And the gloves should be off. There is no sympathy here. This isn't Barack Obama. This isn't, oh, you're a racist if you say this stuff about him. This is everything Democrats hate. White privilege, empowered, older white men. It's everything the Democrats hate. And every single ad for the entire campaign should play right into that. We should just dial the meter up and go right after him as everything that Democrats hate. It's what it has to be. And this was a seminal moment. I mean, this was a real fall. I don't care if there was a sandbag or not. If you're not competent enough or coherent enough to recognize that there are things on the stage that you can trip on, and you're trying to do your little jog thing off to make everybody think that you're 80 years old and you're in great shape, it's just a joke. But even more of a joke is if it's not a setup to have him fall or to have these gaps, which I would think it's not. If he's got special shoes, I think they don't want him to fall. How incompetent is this administration? If you can't see it in their policies, if you can't see it in the things that are going on around the country, it just shows in everything they're doing. It is dripping with incompetence. This is a hapless administration. How could you have this president and all these things and not have somebody double check that stage and make sure there's nothing near there for him to trip on? I learned one thing covering news conferences. Leaders is a broad word, leaders, but it's an important word. Leaders can be the president of the United States. Leader can be the mayor of Lenexa, where I live. It could be Andy Reid, a football coach. There are people who lead a lot of other people in a lot of different areas. The one thing that I learned very early going to news conferences, where it's almost always leaders up in front of the microphones, is the more handlers they have, the more they need help from a publicist, a PR person, or something of this nature. Okay, the more that happens, the less they should be leading. You shouldn't be leading. If you really require somebody to handle you, coach you, hand you note cards, build special shoes for you, you shouldn't be in charge. I'm going to give you some sports examples here. And I'm going to start with dudes that would have never, ever needed special shoes to not fall. Okay? They would, and they don't care about visuals. They know they're competent. They know what to say. They knew how to coach their team. They were leaders of men. These are in sports. And if you came to them as the publicist and said, you got to say this, here's your note cards, do it like this, they'd laugh you off and say, I've got this. Andy Reid is like that. Nobody's telling Andy Reid what to do. Ned Yost was like that. There's champions at the tops of their leagues. Ned Yost was as bad dealing with the media as anybody ever saw. But he did it his way. Nobody was going to tell him how to do it. He did it his way, and he won games, and the Royals won a World Series. Marty Schottenheimer. You think Marty Schottenheimer was going to take advice back in the day from Bob Moore, who was the PR director, about what to say, how to say it? No chance. Roy Williams, Bill Self. No, never. Bill Snyder. Somebody at K-State was going to tell Bill Snyder how to do things and give him note cards. Gary Pinkel. Never, ever, ever. Norm Stewart. No chance. Peter Vermees at Sporting Kansas City. These are all people, these are all leaders of men who've been very successful at what they do, and no handler ever told them how to do it. Norm Stewart used to have run-ins with the media. Roy Williams came off as whiny all the time. Bill Self, like Joe Biden, is a stutterer, and nobody tries to blame anything that ever happens bad at Kansas, which isn't very often. But if it does, they don't say, well, he's a stutterer. He's had it since childhood. No. Bill Snyder had many gaffes in the media just because he was such a prickly sort. Andy Reid is completely locked down, insulated from everything because that's the way he wants it. Ned Yost used to spar with the media. These guys did it their way, and they were really good at doing it. Think of Donald Trump. You think you're going to handle Donald Trump? How many people have told him to stop tweeting or stop posting on True Social? How many people said, don't punch down? He's out there talking about Chris Christie in a town hall. He doesn't care. He does it his way. That's a true leader. That doesn't make them perfect. But watching this administration, or the handling of this administration, and the lack of any real professionalism or competence by the people around Joe Biden is maybe more dangerous and scary than Joe Biden himself. We know Joe Biden isn't making all the decisions. We know that there's people behind the scenes doing a lot of this stuff. If they're so bad at their job that they can't find a way to keep him from falling, it's astounding to me these people are in charge. I'll give you now the opposite of people in sports that were handled like crazy. And I want you to think about how their tenures went as coaches. First one that comes to mind is Gunther Cunningham. How did that go as Chiefs head coach? He was lost out there. On every occasion he met with the media, he was lost. Gunther Cunningham was one of the finest people I ever met. I had some of the greatest conversations I spoke with him one night just sitting outside in River Falls until 1 a.m, just chatting about life, football, experience, America, all these things. And he was great one-on-one. He got in a news conference and started getting questions peppered to him about his football team, nuances, details, things like he didn't know. He was a very simple coach. I'm going to hit the other guy's quarterback. I'm going to pound him into submission every single game, and when we do that, we're going to win. He was a pretty simple guy. But then you start getting into the nuances of two-point conversions and things like that. He just lost. They tried to coach him up, and he couldn't do it. He was not built for that. Trey Hillman, the Royals manager. I mean, they tried and tried and tried to promote him as he's a fine man, he's a strong Christian, he's all those things. He didn't know how to lead men. He didn't know what to do. He certainly didn't know how to really handle a speech or a news conference. And you could tell. And the Royals tried and tried and tried to groom him and teach him, and it never worked. Romeo Crennel, just a disaster. Just a guy that was never meant really to lead men and be a head coach. Was not. He'd be the guy like, where do I stand? Where do I go? And somebody would point and tell him he was that guy. He was never really aware of where he was. And they would point and say, over here, do this, do that. And then, of course, Todd Haley, who just really didn't know anything. He would sit there and they'd tell him all the time, don't make golf metaphors. You're a football coach. Todd Haley was supposedly a college golfer, although he never played on the team. He was obviously a wealthy, privileged, rich kid that got onto the Florida golf team and never played, but he got to practice and travel and go to cool places while he was in college. Todd Haley was the guy that everything was given to him. He never had to figure anything out. So he was never going to be a leader of men in any way. That was just not going to happen. And they would constantly tell him, don't make golf metaphor. Don't make golf comparisons. Don't talk about golf. You're a football coach. Don't talk about the suburbs. His wife famously sued McDonald's after she found some droppings or something in a salad, and they went after it. And he was so proud of that. I mean, they did that. Like, it was with Todd Haley, a lot of times it was anything but football. And they had to try to coach this guy back on target. Football, football, football. Oh, yeah, I am getting paid to coach football here. I mean, you can spot this stuff a mile away, and it's Joe Biden. It's scary. It's dangerous. We're incompetent. We have incompetent leadership in the United States right now. That's just, I pray that just has to be plain and simple, even to the most hard left voters, that these people on their side are incompetent. I don't know a comparison. I guess the closest comp, and I'm not some historian or studier of Gerald Ford, but I would think the closest comp for a Republican, nobody thought they thought George Bush was incompetent, but he wasn't. We saw 9/11. He was in charge. He was a little too far to the middle for me, especially the last 2 years as president, but he's not incompetent. I don't think anybody views him as that. The only comp I can think of here is Gerald Ford, who was only in there for a couple of years, and America perceived him to be, he tripped and fell and did some things and didn't seem to be very presidential and probably would have, never been elected president. Though I don't think the voters would have ever looked at Gerald Ford and said, okay, he's our president, we're voting for him. So they didn't do that. I guess that's the closest comparison here in my lifetime anyway to Joe Biden. But the American people surely they can see as this stuff is hitting the internet and going all over social media. There's not a person in America that hasn't seen Joe Biden fall now. Because even the TikTok kids are out there. They're turning them into funny videos and getting spread around. They're like, oh, yeah, there's the old man president, tripped and fell. Everybody in the country has seen this. It doesn't matter whether they watch the news or read websites or whatever. It doesn't matter. It has crossed their iPhone. You can't own a smartphone right now and you haven't seen Joe Biden fall. That's not possible. So is it good for winning the election? Yes, it is. Is it a good thing for America? We got 18 months left with this guy. We got 18 months left with this guy. It's dangerous. We're in a bad spot. We're in a very vulnerable position as a country. We just are. Do you trust the people that can't keep sandbags off the stage for this president to win the race to artificial intelligence for our military? I mean, that's an honest question. It's an honest question. If these are the people in charge, or we think Russia or China is going to beat us to AI that can be used for military purposes. Scary stuff. KKHI is brought to you by the Finch Knife Company online at finchknifeco.com. Spencer and Steve are buddies of mine, and they have really built a heck of a company here. It's kind of their second act. They were in business before, and it doesn't matter. They're very successful. These are very successful men, okay? And their passion is these knives, and they wanted to start this business up, and they did this a few years ago, and they are really onto something. This company is really growing. They're selling these knives worldwide now. They're made with all 154-centimeter U.S. steel blades. The new Flint series has a 3-inch blade on it, a satin finish, and a titanium clip. It's a beauty. It's called the Flint series of Finch pocket knives. You can find all of them online at finchknifeco.com or visit Shields in Overland Park, the Bullet Hole in Mission, or Teague Tractor in Belton, and keep life from getting dull with a brand new Finch pocket knife for Father's Day. Ladies that are listening, that's what he wants for Father's Day. He wants a Finch knife. A lot of dudes won't buy things for themselves. They're too busy buying things that you have to have, either around the house or whatever. It's kind of a thing you have to have. He wants one. I promise you. Ladies, if you're listening, he wants one. He wants a Finch knife for Father's Day. The Blue Mountain Hotel in Manhattan is ready to welcome you as a business traveler or your family for a soccer tournament or baseball or softball tournament this summer, or as somebody that has a conference or a social event in the Manhattan area. Blue Mountain Hotel is one of a kind in Manhattan. There's nothing like it. It's not some stale, boring corporate chain thing. This is a really wonderful, modern hotel with everything that you need, including the Goolsby's restaurant, bar, indoor entertainment center. It's got conference rooms. It's got a great rooftop area that you can use for a reception or for clients or for a wedding event. The Blue Mountain Hotel is a great place to get married, have everyone stay there. If that's happening, or if you're visiting Manhattan, consider the Blue Mountain Hotel, BluemontHotel.com. And, of course, Jocelyn's Jewelry. This weekend's a good time to get out and take a look around. A lot of folks this time of year are thinking about popping the question. If you're looking for a diamond, there's no better place than Jocelyn's Jewelry. 95th and Antioch. They're so cool there. They clean your jewelry while you're there. They're just so wonderfully old school. It's great. Their sales reps are not commissioned, so there's no pressure. Their prices are lower, and Gary and his staff handpick their own diamonds themselves. That's all you got to know. Jocelyn's Jewelry, 95th and Antioch, online at joslynsjewelry.com. Okay, I bring up the term normal and normalcy because I think it's it's probably a safe term right here. It's probably not a safe term if you just go out there and, if you went on national TV, if you went on CNN and you said, well, we just need more normal people, or we need normal people to speak out more because the people that aren't normal, regular, or in the majority are the ones they're making all the noise and making all the headlines. This has always been the case. We were taught very early in journalism school, if a dog bites a person, it's not a big story. If a person bites a dog, that's a really big story. Man bites dog is a big story. That's what we're living in. We're just living in a time where all this wacky stuff, especially through social behavior that is not of the majority or not normal in our culture, is being celebrated, promoted, and trying to be grown to where more people have this different behavior. It is being done because that's garnering votes for that side. They know this. So I think we can use the word normalcy. I think we should use the word normalcy. We have learned that consumers that are normal have extreme power. They've shown that to Bud Light, Target, Disney, and now Kohl's. Stock is way down. Many people, and this is so exactly what will trigger the left and what is very important for us to do. I think the majority of Americans will understand and appreciate this term. They're calling this all the normal people's revolt. Not conservatives, not liberals, not white, not black, not young, not old, not male, not female. They're calling this thing now, some are, I would love to see this take off, the normal people's revolt, because that's what it is, or the normal people's revolution. That's exactly what it is. We're tired of your crap in our face. We're sick of it. We respect you. We want no harm to you. There is no hate. There's no bigotry here. We don't hate you. Just don't flaunt it. We don't want to see it. I don't come to the Royals game and lift my wife's shirt up and start playing with her breasts. I don't. Okay? Go to the game, act normal in our society, and don't flaunt your junk. Just don't. Don't dress up. Don't have a beard. Don't be a man. Don't dress up like a nun with clown face on and go to a game and make fun of Catholics. Don't do it. You're flaunting. We need some normalcy. We need normalcy in our society. We need this desperately. I love the term. The question is, can you say it? Can we make this a bigger deal? Can we have a normal people's revolt in this country? Can we accept that as a slogan? Because I love it. That's what it basically is. I don't think this should be labeled as conservative. I think that's bad. I think we should not let them label this as anything. If you're a normal person that understands the societal norms that we have, and we have many that we, until now, have all agreed on. Law and order is good. Family is good. Responsibility, personal responsibility is good. Commitment to others is good. Faith is good. These are all norms in our society that have existed since the 1700s. Earlier than that, actually, since the Pilgrims came. These have all been things that we have strived to have at every moment, and now we seem to just be letting go of them. Saying, no, in fairness to these other people who are marginalized, well, they're not out on the margins anymore. They're the mainstream. You go online, you look at the media, you see the coverage, you see what's happening. Right now, it's Pride Month. I've never seen so much hype for anything. Can we have a normal people's month where we celebrate those things? Law and order, country, family, commitment, responsibility, faith. Can we have a normal people's month? Can we call it that? Where we celebrate it with some of the most boring events you've ever seen. Because being a good person and being a great American is oftentimes mundane and boring. And there's a beauty to that. There's a poetry to that. There's something that we should embrace and love about that. I love it. Normal people's revolt. Are you in? I'm in. We see little signs that the normal people's revolt is winning. We saw the Dodgers take the nuns thing away, but then allow it back, which is just amazing to me because this is nothing but a Saturday Night Live sketch allowed. These are men in beards dressing up like nuns, painting their faces like clowns, and going to a game and flaunting it because they are atheist. I think what we have here is this isn't, I guess the plus, LGBTQ plus. We've heard this term cis, non-cis. I don't even know what some of that stuff is. Plus, I think includes atheists. And I'm pretty sure that's what these dudes are that dress up as these nuns. That they're atheists that want to make fun of religion. I'm pretty sure that's what their organization is. I think some of these dudes are straight. I do. I think they're straight. But they're atheists. And they find their home in this group, this LGBTQ plus pride group, and they come up with the nuns of sisters of indulgence and make fun of Catholics because they're atheists. Atheists don't like Catholicism. And the Dodgers now reversed and allowed that. But the fact that the Dodgers canceled to begin with, I made a big deal of it. I said, this is great progress. And I'd like to think they're still going to cancel it, but we'll see. There is movement from the normal people's revolt. We've seen it in commerce, in retail. But now the Pentagon gets it. And this was important when we saw the hearings where they literally sat there and said, well, we didn't know this stuff was going on. You didn't know what was going on? It's in the news. It's in the conservative news, but you might want to read the conservative news too. If our military and the Pentagon aren't following what's going on in conservative circles in America, how can they possibly know what's going on in China? It's unbelievable. The Pentagon has now ordered Nellis Air Force Base to cancel its previously approved. This was approved. They have ordered Nellis Air Force Base to cancel a previously approved drag show on the base. It was scheduled, I think, for yesterday or today, and it got canceled. And the email was released by somebody. It wasn't classified or anything like that, but it came out that, hey, this was previously approved, drop it. We're not having a drag show on an Air Force base right now. This topic is too toxic. If the topic is too toxic for the Pentagon, shouldn't it be too toxic for these baseball teams? I had a bunch of folks that are friends of mine, sponsors, colleagues, people that I know yesterday, 4 or 5, send me the thing the Royals put out with the pride flag, that it's Pride Month and everybody is welcome here. It was a very Christian message. Everyone is welcome in this home. I don't really have a problem with that. The execution of Pride Night, I'm open to criticizing the Royals or any of these teams or whatever. And they sent it to me, and they were like, a couple of these that were sent to me, there was no text with it. It was just like, here it is in your face. And I sent back to them a Kansas State baseball cap with a power cat on it, with a pride rainbow around it that said the same thing. Everyone is welcome here, basically. Oh, then that's really struck. It's one thing for the Royals to do it. Kansas State's doing it? Look, everybody's doing it. It's Pride Month. You recognize it. It's like Black History Month. Morgan Freeman was the guy that knocked it out of the park. Morgan Freeman, the black actor, said, Black History Month is demeaning. We don't need our own history. We're Americans. We don't need our own history month. It's insulting. It's degrading. And it basically, I've said this a million times about other things. It basically says that what's inferred here is we're a lesser caliber of people, so we need our own special recognition. And he's right. If you're seeking special recognition, you're actually acting like you're something less. It's the same thing with pride. LGBTQ+. If you want to be normalized in our society, you don't get your own month. We don't have a month for the normal people's revolt. There is no 55-year-old white guy club that gets recognition. If you want to be seen and treated as equal, you got to shut the hell up, and we got to stop talking about this stuff. I honestly believe that's the way. The Pentagon agrees. They have canceled the drag show. I'm fully in agreement with that. I think a lot of folks that listen to this podcast are parents. Some still have kids at home. Some have kids that have left the house. And I think as parents, we always worry about our kids. I really don't worry much about mine now. I don't. And that's not to say something bad couldn't happen to them, because it can happen at any time, even when they're grown. I just don't think and worry about, I think about my kids' futures and, good things, certainly that we want for them. But I don't think about bad things happening to them. I wasn't worried for them during COVID, nothing like that. But it doesn't mean that there aren't things there are reasons why you worry about young people, because they just do dumb things. And I certainly did dumb things when I was younger, but I think this story out of Louisiana is maybe the dumbest thing I've ever seen. This is probably the most senseless death I've ever seen of a teenager. This is not a fight. It's not gunplay. This is just crazy. A young man named Cameron Robbins from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, went with a bunch of high school friends on a trip to Bahamas. A lot of parents condone this. I don't know if it was chaperoned or not. Doesn't matter. These kids all want to go to other countries when they're 18 because they can just get smashed. They can just get drunk as can possibly be, because the law is 18 and it's all legal, and they get to feel like adults for the first time, and they don't need a fake ID, and they don't need this and that, and they just want to get blitzed. It appears that's what this was. Cameron Robbins, who was a good student, an athlete, headed to college, by all accounts, a good kid, but they're partiers. They're all 18. They've graduated high school. This is their graduation trip. They go to the Bahamas. They get on a Blackbeard's Revenge sunset cruise. It's now dark. They're off a little bitty island or a key somewhere off the Bahamas. They still got some time to go before they get back in for the evening. And it's likely announced on the ship, hey, these are the shark-infested waters, blah, 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 blah. They try to scare you. It's nighttime. It's Blackbeard's Revenge, this cruise. You've been on these things, right? These are really shark-infested waters. These drunk kids dare somebody to jump in and jump back on the boat. Just jump in and get back in. Cameron Robbins does. They immediately throw him the ring, the buoy thing, the life vest, the lifesaver. They immediately throw it to him. It's not that he can't swim, and he is swimming. They see something coming. There's video of this. They see it coming. And slowly he drifts away and goes down under the water. I just cannot imagine. And I've done some dumb things. I cannot imagine being dared into something like that. And of course, every kid on the ship has their camera going. There's video of all this. You don't see really the attack or a bite. You see this thing coming. You see the ring in the water, and then you see Cameron, and he's just going to come right back in the boat. I mean, he's not in there very long. And the last thing you hear on the video is bye-bye. The person on the boat just says bye-bye. They see him dragged under and gone. He just disappears. You don't really see the shark at that point. It's just unbelievable. I can't imagine anything senseless or sadder than that. That there was drinking and cheering and daring, and this is the way that happens. How do you raise your kid to make good grades, play sports, do the right thing? There's no teaching a kid not to do something stupid in a moment like that. I just don't believe it. I just don't know how the peer pressure, the drinking, you involve all these different things. He may have been showing off, trying to impress a girl. Who knows what he was trying to do? But we've been there. We've all been at a place where we're trying to show off or do something or, I'm not judging the young man, really. I just think it's tragic. I've done enough stupid things in my life that I can't judge someone else for doing stupid things. But, man, that's really, really sad. Really sad. All right, we'll lighten it up, and we'll move on to sports, brought to you by Advantage Termite and Pest Control. Advantage Termite and Pest Control can handle any problem you have. If you see critters around your house, they've got that. If you're like me and you just hate wasp nests, that canister thing they have shoots up a few feet in the air. But if you see them up on the upper sills of your house and you see a big nest being built or whatever, they'll get that for you, man. They'll get it for you. You don't want all those wasps around. They could be right around the corner from where your deck is, swarming around, flying around. You don't want to see that stuff. It's out of your reach. Don't climb up on a ladder and try to do it. Advantage Termite and Pest Control can handle it all for you. Regular service is the way to go. Many of you have made the switch. If you've thought about it and you haven't done it, and now you're seeing little critters or bugs coming in after this rain and this heat, call Advantage and you won't see anything. AdvantageTPC.com, 913-768-8989. Roberts Robinson, Chevrolet Buick GMC in Excelsior Springs. They've got unbelievable deals going on again. It's back. It's all the way back. 1.9% APR on brand new Chevy Silverado LT TurboMax trucks. 1.9% APR on Chevy Blazers, Equinox, and Trailblazers. GMC Sierra 1500, 0.9% APR. GMC Acadia, 1.9%. This is big-time stuff now. Teachers and educators get a $500 cashback bonus all month long on new vehicles at Roberts Robinson in Excelsior Springs. Online at robertsrobinson.com. Those folks are the best. And Tim Cross over at Cross Kitchens KC, online at crosskitchenskc.com. He is Kansas City's remodeler. Big job, small job. He'd love to remodel for you. The first appointment is absolutely free. You sit down, you go through the house, you take a look. He does a 3D rendering for you, shows you what they can do. You decide whether you want to do it. It's no more complicated than that. Why wouldn't you at least talk to Tim Cross, crosskitchenskc.com. On to sports. We'll start with the Chiefs because the Chiefs are always welcome in sports at KKHI. Dave Tobe is the special teams coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid has made a big deal over the last couple of weeks that he doesn't like the new kickoff return rule where you can fair catch and take the ball at the 25. I said immediately that means Andy is not going to fair catch. Dave Tobe made it abundantly clear this week at workouts, at off-season training, that the Chiefs are not going to fair catch, that they're going to, quote, stay aggressive, unquote, and keep returning kicks. He and Andy are being slaughtered by the sports media on this. The statistics prove, in the case of the Chiefs last year, they would have been much better off fair catching and taking the ball at the 25. I'm not arguing the stats. I'm not arguing it. They have analytics people. The analytics people clearly, in my mind, some are screaming like, what do the analytics guys do? They've told Andy, and Andy has told them, I don't care. What was Andy's comment? If we keep pushing these rules, we're going to be out here playing flag football. I want you to think about, look, I've always been one more than willing to criticize sports teams, but it's almost always over procedural things, not X's and O's or your style of coaching with your team. This man has now won 2 Super Bowls. How have the Chiefs won the Super Bowl? Ask yourself this. Have they won it with aggressive play? Always pushing the envelope? Not just on offense where they're aggressive, but defense. Do the Chiefs like to blitz? Yes, they do. Do they take chances on defense? Yes, they do. Do they do things a lot in a game that go against the grain of what the stats say? They absolutely do. Andy Reid, in his own low-key way, keeps players on the team and coaches them to play more aggressively and believe in their personal skills more than the guys on the other team. I guess the way to say this is, in a way, the players feel like they're undercoached, not overcoached. He wants me to go be myself. How many times were you frustrated at Travis Kelce trying to get the extra yard and he fumbles, or Tyreek Hill doing something stupid and turning around and taunting a guy as he's playing? Andy Reid says, be you. And the Chiefs get a lot of flags for that. They get a lot of flags for being you. Chris Jones got a terrible flag last year that cost him a game. There's all kinds of things the Chiefs do that cost them big time. But it all stems from a core philosophy of be aggressive. We're going to go out and play our ass off. We're going to play harder than the other guy. You're going to be you. I'm not taking that away from you. You're responsible for you. Do your job. Let's go get them. Andy Reid is not going to fair catch kickoffs. Look, I don't know what the metric shows. I think it's something like 1.5 yards difference where the Chiefs would start between fair catching and not. That is not a reason to give up and play flag football. I support the Chiefs in this, and the Chiefs will fumble a kickoff. It's coming. They're going to fumble one next year. They may even lose a game because of it. My personal belief is the others in the sports media that sit in front of their computers all day and got their fancy degrees and love statistics and love the analytics and love all this stuff, that's great. That is not how sports is won and lost. It is not. It's not a math project. It's helpful, but it's not the game. It isn't the game in baseball. It isn't the game anywhere. Analytics taught coaches to shoot more threes in basketball. Great. Go find some guys that can shoot threes. It doesn't mean shooting more threes doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. We know what the analytics say in basketball. Old school basketball is dumb. Mid-range jumpers are stupid. Find guys that can dunk and shoot threes. Coaches have done that. They learned that through analytics, but that is not, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way they coach their team. There's guys they don't want shooting threes, and there's guys they don't want posting up down low trying to dunk the ball. There is still coaching to all this and a style of play and the way that you play. And the Chiefs are aggressive, and they make a lot of mistakes, and I've been very critical of some of the stupid things they do, especially individual players that lose their freaking minds because Andy Reid and discipline, you can't use them in the same sentence. He doesn't discipline his football team. It's by design. You can't argue this anymore. He's won 2 Super Bowls. I am okay with the Chiefs returning kickoffs. Of course, Tobe was standing out there, and the reason he really pissed the media off was he was standing out there saying, I don't care. We're going to be so much better this year. You'll see it right from the start. That's what Dave Tobe said. You will see it immediately how much better we are at special teams this year. Okay, that was an embattled special teams coach that had more screw-ups than successes. Oh, until the Super Bowl, when they got that kick return that the Eagles are still pissed off about in the offseason. It's just killing the Eagles that the Chiefs got a kick return that set them up to win the game. It's just killing them. All the mistakes, all the problems, all the penalties, all the things that happen in special teams, all the missed Harrison Butker field goals, what'd he do? Keep kicking, Harrison. Keep kicking. Oh, he kicked a field goal to win the game to go to the Super Bowl, and he kicked a field goal to win the Super Bowl? Oh, really? This is a guy everybody wanted to cut earlier in the year. And I think he's overpaid. I'll say that. Harrison Butker's overpaid. But when it was on the line, what happened? They made plays. Special teams won games for the Chiefs. Be aggressive. I am with the Chiefs on this. I am against almost everyone else in the media. There is a way that you play. There's a style that you play. And you do not argue with a 2-time Super Bowl winning coach. You just don't. The Chiefs won Super Bowls because of it. You don't think Wasp was an aggressive play? We're getting our butt kicked in this game. It's 3rd and forever. Let's heave this sucker downfield and just see if Tyreek Hill can make a play. I'm sorry. Don't credit design of the play. Don't credit Patrick Mahomes for saying, hey, let's run wasp. None of that stuff. That ball, that pass was a punt. It was a fair catch. Tyreek Hill stopped, came back a little bit, jumped up, and got it. Be aggressive. It works for the Chiefs, and I'm with them. The SEC is going to play 8 football games in 2024, not this year, next year. They have decided they will have no divisions and play 8 conference games. There was a lot of talk from Greg Sankey. He wanted 9. He wanted 9 because he wants the SEC to play 9 to have better resumes for the college football playoff. I think this is the right decision, especially since they're going to do it for a year and see how it goes. This is not etched in stone. They're not committing to this forever. I think this is the right way to go in the SEC. I think it's a grueling enough conference. It's tough enough the way it is. 8 conference games is enough. Work out your own non-con. In many cases, these teams are playing very tough non-con games anyway. I'm okay with this. I'm totally on board with the SEC deciding this. Little surprised. I think the headline for me here is Greg Sankey, the commissioner, wanted 9, and it's 8. So somehow he got overruled or convinced or whatever. I don't think it's just completely up to him. I think the ADs and the coaches overwhelmingly want 8 conference games, and it's just a cleaner schedule. 8's just cleaner. This is the problem with all these expansions. So it really ought to be, my opinion, 2 8-team divisions. You play 7 games in your division and 1 in the other. And I know it's forever until you get some of those other teams in your stadium. I recognize that. It's not perfect. The perfect number for a conference is and will always be 12. I mean, 8's outstanding, but 12 is better. You get 2 divisions. It makes sense for a playoff game. The SEC is just going to say whoever finishes first and second, they'll have tiebreakers at the yin-yang. Whoever finishes first and second will play in the SEC title game. But if we're going to go big and we're going to go to 16, there should be 2 8-team divisions. And maybe I don't think you can have a dedicated rival in that other division. You got to put rivals together in a division so they play every year. But I think you have to find a way to rotate it around. And every 8 years you play the other teams. I know it's not perfect, but expansion isn't perfect. I've not been in favor of this expansion. This is not always good for the fans, this stuff. Denver Nuggets fans have waited forever. They got their first NBA Finals game in Denver last night. Nikola Jokic was spectacular. And he started the game just by being a 7-foot point guard. Just one assist after another. I think he had 14 assists. He only had 2 points in the first quarter, I think. Maybe took 3 shots in the first half. He only had 5 shots through 3 quarters. Then the Heat changed their defense, went more to a zone, and Jokic said, really? Well, I got this. And he finished with 27 points. Christian Brown played a lot in this game. He had a wonderful assist to Michael Porter Jr. from Mizzou, who hit a big 3-pointer from the corner. Miami is not very aggressive. Did you know Miami gave up more points than they scored this year and made the playoffs? That's a stunning fact. They're in the finals, and they had more points against than points for. Now, their offense changed around January or February, and they got better, but not great. Miami only got to the free throw line twice. That is an NBA Finals record low. That means they're not aggressive enough. So they're going to come out in game 2 and try to drive the lane and be aggressive and do these things. We'll see how it works. Denver is so much better than anybody else. And this isn't really close. Denver's going to win this series. I don't see any other way around it. I didn't even think Jokic was great last night. You know, you're watching it and you're like, well, he's really not that involved. These other guys are carrying him. They led all night by double digits, and they win it by 11. Denver is up 1-0, but it's fun to see. Really fun to see. Those players, Christian Brown, who we know much better than Michael Porter Jr., but I count Michael Porter Jr. as Missouri. I just do. I think that's a cool thing. And I'm rooting for the Nuggets, and I bet on the Nuggets last night, and they covered, and I bet on them to win the series, and pretty sure I'm going to cash that one as well. Our final is brought to you by Back9 Development, online at back9development.com. TJ Vilkanskas is your contact there. TJ's really great at taking an idea and bringing it to life. Just making it happen, building your dream, whether it's a commercial venture, whether, let's say you're a doctor and you're looking for a new doctor's office, you want to own your own building this time and diversify your practice and say, I own my own building. And that's a great way to go because real estate, improves in value and things like that. Or if you're looking at investment properties or things of that nature, if you want to build a custom home, TJ Vilkanskis is a tremendous builder and developer. I think you're really going to like working with him. You're going to have a lot in common with him. And if you have a business related to this field, you might want to just call TJ and meet him and see if your business syncs up with his business. TJ's number is 785-236-0161. That's 785-236-0161. His portfolio is online at back9development.com. And I think you might be a good match for him and him for you. Buck Roofing and Construction, anytime TJ builds something, Buck Roofing puts the roof on. They've become friends. They didn't really know each other before the podcast. Now they're business related, which is really cool. They work together on everything. TJ builds you a home. Buck Roofing is going to put the roof on. It's fantastic. These are just quality guys. Buck Roofing is so good at what they do. They really take care of your property when they work on your roof and don't destroy your bushes and shrubs and all those things around. They're great. You're going to love the fact that they're available 24/7 if you have an emergency. They also do free roof inspections. Now's a great time to get that done. After we had a whole bunch of rain, you may be seeing some ceiling spots. Have them come check it out for you. They really, really know roofing, residential and commercial. They did the Midland Theater, for crying out loud, downtown Kansas City. So they can do a big building or your small rental properties that need new roofs on them because you just have to do it at a very low cost. Wide variety of roofing products. They'll work with you. 913-384-2680. And I always like to mention before the weekend, it's a great time to go to Amini's Galleria, 105th and Metcalf. Guys, if you're looking for new bar stools for this fall for football season, or if you're in the market for outdoor furniture because yours is worn, torn, or faded, Amini's is loaded. It's all in stock. Mention the podcast when you visit Amini's, and you're a VIP. They treat their VIPs great there at Amini's. 105th and Metcalf, also in St. Louis, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City now. RS has really built quite a business with quality products. They have pinball machines, golden tee, pool tables, shuffleboard, hot tubs, saunas, you name it. For your home, they have rugs for area rugs, all the cool stuff. It's all at Amini's, 105th and Metcalf. Our final is a young man named LeBron James Jr. He goes by Bronny. He's LeBron James' kid. And he's a McDonald's All-American. So apparently he's a really, really great basketball player. Bronny James has 7 million social media followers. He has already made $7.2 million of his own money. That's his own money in name, image, and likeness to go to USC and play basketball. LeBron likely isn't retiring. He's been talking about whatever. I think LeBron's thought is he either wants to play with or against his son. And if he's a one-and-done player and Bronny gets drafted after he plays 1 year of college basketball, that LeBron James may be a free agent or be able to just say, I'm going to go play on that team for a year with my son. That's what people say and think. I don't even know if it can be executed, if it's possible. I'm guessing if LeBron wants to do it, it can be done. Bronny James he might not even have to go to the pros and could maybe make $50 million by the time it's all said and done. It has now been announced that Bronny James' first college game at USC will be against Jerome Tang in Kansas State. There's our final. The game is going to be played November 6th in Las Vegas in a doubleheader, one of those classics, where the Oregon Ducks will be there, along with the Georgia Bulldogs. So Kansas State's playing in Las Vegas. Then the next week, they're playing in the Bahamas. I got a bunch of buddies going to the Bahamas, been trying to talk me into going. That's not a lot of fun for Jessica. The Bahamas is, but not when there's a whole bunch of K-State fans at the resort. That's really not her thing. Maybe Vegas is. Maybe, very quietly, my daughter doesn't listen to the podcast, so we might have to keep this secret. But the Georgia Bulldogs are in Vegas. Maybe me and Jessica should go with my daughter and her boyfriend to Vegas and see the cats and the dogs in a doubleheader. Dogs and cats, baby. Maybe, just maybe. I'm keeping that one to myself, so please don't start spreading that around all over the place. I just thought it's interesting. Bronny James already made $7 million. His first game is going to be against Kansas State. There you have it. Hope you enjoyed the podcast this week. I really appreciate you listening. You're just awesome. We're getting close to 29,000 subscribers now on the podcast. So many of you said, hey, you should try this, listen to this, and then you show them on their iPhone or whatever how to subscribe. It's free. That's great. Can't thank you enough for doing that and really helping us spread the word. It's been an amazing journey the past couple of years, and we are just getting started. We got so many big things coming up in the next year and a half, with the elections around the corner, with the Chiefs coming back in the fall, and college football season, all these things that we love. Can't wait to see how it all unfolds, and we'll all be along for the ride together. I always say it like this: do not be afraid anywhere you go to say whatever is on your mind, including if you want to tell people that you think Kevin Kietzman has issues.
Thanks for listening to Kevin Kietzman Has Issues, presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. To get exclusive patrons-only podcasts, receive a weekly newsletter, and attend in-person patrons-only parties, visit kkhasissues.com and become a patron today. This has been a production of Crooked Tail Media Incorporated.